Well, hello, everyone. Here we are at the airport in Narita in Japan. So, Betty, where are we going to?
We are going to China, and it's going to be an exciting trip. I can't hardly wait.
Yeah, you can't wait. Well, we're already on the way. As you can see, there's our plane, the Northwest, the plane that took us from the West Coast here in the United States to Narita Airport. Of course, there's always usually a stop over there in Japan. And the time before we went, we stopped and we stayed overnight. But anyway, we flew on. We just had a little bit of a layover, and here we are now in the next morning in beautiful Beijing.
Yeah, Beijing is an exciting city, really. A lot of activity, a lot of things going on in Beijing.
There really are. And of course, we have seen so much in the way of modernization in China, and especially right here in Beijing. When we got up and we had breakfast, and then we saw these people out here, and I thought, well, maybe they were just doing exercises. But I don't think so, Betty. I think that they were rehearsing for some sort of a show that they were going to do.
Well, there's a name for these exercises that they do like that. Is
well,
that
they
because
do Tai Chi, but
yeah.
I think that they were exercising to me. I don't think it was exercising because they, as you can see, they were all in their costumes. Yeah. In fact, there were a couple of Japanese tourists that came along, and they wanted to join in with the Chinese here with some of their dancing or their exercising. But this was right outside the window of the restaurant in the hotel, and so we wandered around those beautiful gardens, and they were absolutely just really wonderful. Now here you can see there in the middle, there's the Japanese tourist, and she's trying to keep up with these people and learn how. Actually, she didn't do too bad a job. It probably did a heck of a lot better than I would do. Well, we are going to go now. We've got ourselves on the bus, and so we're going to head into the polluted city, of course, as we see, of Beijing. And, we have our beautiful guide, Helen.
There are many railway stations, and this one used to be the largest one, but now there's another bigger one in the west, and located in the west of Beijing. And this one is smaller, comparatively, and also now is changed into international train station. And in China, there's trains leading with Russia, Korea, North Korea, and even to the Vietnam. Oh, what's that?
This is thank you.
Oh my God!
You're going for the
Well, students, and this is sorry, excuse me.
Well, Helen got a real big kick out of that. Catherine she was already there. She brought the phrases with her.
Oh, she's a doll. Yeah, she's been with us on several trips, and so has her mother. But we provided masks for everybody because when we were there the last time, the pollution rate was very, very bad. So I went and got some of these and handed them out to everybody.
And you can see even some of the workers there on the street were doing exactly the same thing.
Most of the, in the past, most of the people lived in the downtown. But now only one-third of rural people living in the downtown, and most of the people move out of the second ring road. Yeah. So out of the second ring road, you can see many new apartments and high-rises.
And of course, you're talking about the new apartments. And as we go through on this whole trip to China, we are going to see lots and lots and lots of brand new skyscrapers and new apartments. We are now just outside, or going alongside, I should say, Tiananmen Square, as you can see right here. And one of the towers, so there are two towers there on either side of the street. We saw one just a moment ago. And these are some of the government buildings. And we're going to have to go clear around the block because what we want to do is we want to go into the Forbidden City. Now, Betty, this is that other tower. As you can see, of course, these are ancient. They've been there for quite some time.
I'm thinking maybe you should have prefaced Tiananmen Square with the infamous Tiananmen Square.
Well,
but it's all
from the one
time we were there. Yeah, it wasn't anything like when we were here the first time. Everything is so clean. Did you notice that,
yes.
Mark?
Well, I noticed it. For me, it had been 12 years since I had gone there. But and you've been there in between times, I know, Betty. And I've talked to people that go every year, and they say you can't believe the changes every time that you go. Well, I was flabbergasted this time.
Well, you know why? They're going to have the Olympics. I mean, they didn't know at the time.
No, they didn't know it at the time that they had.
But they're preparing for it.
In fact, you brought up a very good point because I was, if you recall, when the vote came for the Olympics, you and I were at an event in Canada, and the Canadians, of course, were bidding for the Olympics as well, and then the Chinese got it. And I think we mentioned to ourselves there, that's great, but they're going to hold them in Beijing. But with all that pollution, it's going to be terrible for the athletes.
But it wasn't as bad this time. I don't know what they've done to take care of it. But when we were there before, or when I was there before, it was so bad. It was hard to breathe. I had to hold my handkerchief up against my mouth, especially at Xi'an, when we were in Xi'an.
Well, what they're going to do, though, the government has stated that they're going to close down all of the coal-burning plants in and around Beijing, and they're going to stop a lot of the buses that are polluting, and they're going to move over to natural gas instead of the other fuels that they've been using. Well, anyway, we have parked our bus now, and so now we have our group together, and we're walking in Tiananmen Square. And of course, Tiananmen Square, on one side you will see government. Well, actually, on two sides you'll see government buildings, and on the other side we're going to go into, of course, the Forbidden City. But there was music, and there was kind of, I guess, I don't know if it was propaganda or what, but there were a lot of speeches that were going on through these speakers the whole time.
Propaganda, I'm sure.
In the Qing dynasty and the Ming dynasty, there were many buildings for the office. It's a government place, and only the central axis, stayed there. And after 1950s, this place were converted into the square, and all of these houses and the government offices were turned down and opened this place into the square. And so around this square there are many important government buildings, such as the Great Hall of People, and this one was built in 1959. And in China, the highest organ of power is the National Congress. And the National Congress has one conference every year in this building, in this Great Hall of People. And all of the delegators and the representatives gather here and to talk about the state affairs. And every 4 years, they have one elections. Yeah, so all of the representatives come from the different provinces. So they talk about their own affairs, and then submit to the National Congress, and then the National Congress will give them the solutions. A close look at this Tiananmen, the Gate of Heavenly Peace. In Chinese is the Tiananmen, and this square is named after this gate. And this gate was first built in 1417, and is the main gate to the Imperial City. So Forbidden City is just in the center, and then after Forbidden City is the Imperial City. So this gate is leading to the Imperial City, and then to the Forbidden City. So after this gate, later we will cross the street and then walk through this gate to the Forbidden City. Later this gate become the symbol of New China, because on the 1st October 1949, the Chairman Mao proclaimed the founding of the People's Republic of China on this gate. So that's why it's become the symbol of New China. And on the 1st October 1949, all of the leaders stood on this gate, and about 300,000 people stood on this square, they celebrate. Yeah, and they also say a long live to the People's Republic of China, and a long live to the Chairman Mao, because Chairman Mao liberated the poor people. Yeah, and so after that, this place, become a very important place in China, and all of the political ceremonies are held on this square. So when your President Clinton come here, or other president come here, they have a welcome, ceremony, greeting ceremony on this square. But at that time, this square will be, closed. so no visitors and no tourists standing on it.
Well, I think she gave us a very good explanation of the square.
She's very dear, but
she's wonderful.
I find with so many of our guides, they repeat a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, we're too dumb, we didn't get it the first time, so I better tell it to them again.
As you notice, there's a entrance for the foreign guests this way, and I think the native guests go the other way for some reason. I'm not quite sure why. But anyway, we had to watch our step right here because it can get a little dangerous with all of these stones.
From this side, you can see between the two bricks, there you have found a little, this one is a little bit higher than the other one. You can find a little steps, and you must lift your feet, otherwise you will stumble down. Okay, and when we reach the end, you look back, you can find the ways looks different. It looks very smooth. The reason why the bricks, laid in this way, because all of the emperor's subjects were supposed and expected to kowtow to the emperors. For those who didn't want to have a kowtow, when you walk on it, you will fall down and then you kowtow to the emperors. But for the emperor himself, he needn't kowtow to anyone, so the way is easier. So that's why the brick is paved in this way. Okay, so when we walk ahead, just be careful. It took 14 years to finish the whole complex, and this Forbidden City is rectangular in shape. It's 72 hectares in size. From the south to the north is 960 meters long, and from the east to the west is 750 meters wide. And all of the palaces were rebuilt later, but the layout was originated from the Ming Dynasty. And because of the fire, it's burned down several times, and so its last rebuild was in the Qing Dynasty, and until now it's about 300 years, all of the buildings. Yeah, and it was finished in 1420, and in the 1421, the emperor of Ming Dynasty, Zhu Di, he was the third emperor. He moved the capital from Nanjing to Beijing. So after this emperor, there were 24 emperors stay in this place, lived here. Until 1911, the last dynasty was overthrown in the democratic revolution led by Dr. Sun Yat-sen. And the last emperor was still enjoying the privilege to live here for another 13 years until 1924, and then he was driven out of the Forbidden City, and then he moved to the Tianjin, and then he moved to the northeast of China, and he set up Manchuria with the help of Japanese. Yeah, but at that time he was, nominally he was emperor, but actually the power was still in the hand of Japanese invaders. So actually he was a puppet. Yeah, and in 1925, this place was converted into a palace museum and then opened to the public, so the people can come in to pay a visit, to have visit this place. So before that is a Forbidden City, and then after 1925 is named the Palace Museum till now. Okay, and Forbidden City is divided into two parts. In the front, in the south, is a political area, and in the north, in the back side, is a living place. The political area only reserved for the emperors and officials, only for men. Women couldn't, step the foot on these political areas, because women was not supposed to, to involved into the politics in the past time. Okay, and in these political areas, and some political ceremonies were held in this place, just like the present Tiananmen Square. Okay, And this gate, the first gate is named the Meridian Gate. And because the emperor believed a meridian line went through the Forbidden City. Yeah, and all of the important buildings and the emperor's throne just placed on this axis. So, and all of the buildings and the palaces were built on both sides symmetrically. So only the emperor's most important things were placed on this axis. Okay, and this gate is named the Gate of Supreme Harmony. Is the main gate leading to the political area. And in front of this gate, you can see there's one river. This is the Inner Golden River. And
there is so much to see inside the Forbidden City. And you saw the little map that we had a little earlier. You were only just seeing still a small part of it. Now this is another hall. There's 2 or 3 halls. So you go one to the next courtyard, then to the next hall, and then to the next hall, as you can see. And they all had the word harmony in them.
Isn't that lovely?
I think so.
Marv, did they make a movie showing this Forbidden City?
Oh, you mean The Last Emperor?
The Last Emperor, yeah.
That was
that was something that we all said we were going to go and get at the store, and bring it home and see it again.
Yeah, I did see it again.
Did you?
Yes.
But when you see it in purpose, on purpose, in person, it's just really a thrill to see the beautiful, beautiful artwork and the pottery.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, there's so much to it, and I think what would been so interesting. You do see it in the movie when they have these courtyards and when the emperor, comes in, and all of the people, of course, in the beautiful costumes that they have, and the way that they're lined up, and the kowtowing to the emperor, I think is fun. Now the emperor is the only one that can walk or pass over what we see right here. This is. You call it a stairway, but actually he was probably carried most of the time in those sedan chairs, right over that.
It's just a good thing that it's not allowed, because you wouldn't see the carvings anymore.
That's true, you wouldn't.
Footprints, no, it would have been eliminated a long time ago just from the feet passing back and forth.
As you stated, there is so much work that is continually being done here to keep this place up, because there are thousands upon thousands of tourists that come through here, and most of those, of course, are the Chinese. And you have to figure, when they have 1.3 billion people, and if they all want to come and see it, that's going to be a lot of folks tramping through there.
And you got to remember, in China, they've got the personnel. There's so many people in China that there's many jobs and many people to fill them.
Yeah. This is the nice thing, I think, that we saw also when we visited Beijing this time, is that some of the areas that we saw in years prior were, I would say, kind of slum areas as such, but now we see that hasn't happened. We had 2 people that were just crazy for coffee on this trip.
I wonder who they were.
I'd like to have the coffee, but Mahmoud and Jackie were the 2, and they really like to have really good coffee. And we came around a corner here. We didn't think anything about it. Thought, you'd come to a tea house or something like that. But here they had espresso and cappuccino. And
Jackie was in seventh heaven, wasn't she?
She was. Oh, yes, indeed.
Yes.
Jackie's from France originally, and she just loves to have her coffee. If she doesn't have her coffee, she might not be in the greatest of moods. Of course, she says that in the morning anyway. She says, "You better not even talk to me until I have my coffee."
I think that's what Michelle says.
Is that?
Yes,
that's her husband.
Yes.
Anyway, there was the menu up there, and so there's Jackie ordering her coffee, and the fellow was real happy there that he had some good takers for coffee as such. Well, now we are going to go to a Chinese opera.
La-dee-da.
This is really interesting. As we see here in the Chinese opera, this, of course, I'm just using a few selected shots because it goes on for quite some time. Now, there was also a narration in English to this, but the narration is, for those of you that do go to the opera here in the United States, you notice that up over the stage that the words are printed out. and they were doing the same thing over on the side of this particular stage. This had been in this same theater about 12 years ago and saw a show that was similar to this, but this is very interesting because trying to find out what this is all about would be very difficult if you didn't have the translation. And there's so much in the way of what I would call sort of martial arts, what they're doing, and the fight scenes, and those were some of the things that I tried to get here. And the acrobatics were just incredible. Betty, very, very talented
They
group
were
of people.
talented, and I enjoyed it up to a point. But then after a while, to me it was so repetitious. It was a lot of
Well,
the
I think
same
perhaps
thing.
some of that, Betty, might have been the music, which I think most of the people from the West are probably not used to. I mean, you have a lot of the gongs and the other instruments that are being used that our ears are not really attuned to.
And it's all kind of the same kind of, we don't have. But the costumes and the gestures,
Aren't they?
and the agility of the dancers were there. Yeah, look at like her now. It's sort of a ballet in a way,
very much
combined
so.
with gymnastics and.
Right. And we were debating that night when we saw this whether I believe that in some of the olden times that all of the characters, all of the actors are actors. They're all men, and so the women's parts are also played by men as well. And so we were debating, was this a man or is it a woman? We really weren't quite sure. But when you see some of the acrobatics on this, I really sort of thought that some of it was probably performed by men as such. And then I heard the other actor that we just saw a moment ago was actually doing a lot of singing. But I think that there was someone off stage that was doing that. Yeah. I'm not sure. I could be wrong, but
look at this is when we went to another. We didn't go to an opera, but we went to an acrobatic show of some kind of like a semi-circus thing, and they did all these kind of things, but not nearly as beautifully done or as glamorously dressed.
Oh, these costumes were wonderful.
Yes, they were.
They were wonderful. And this is set up sort of as a there's a young. If that was a young girl that did that, I'm not quite sure. I guess it could be done. I'm not sure. But anyway, this was set up as a dinner theater as such. And now these guys are really going something. Anyway,
I think I left early.
Did you?
Yeah, I can only take so much of this, and then I couldn't understand it, and I enjoyed the dancing for a while, and the music drove me a little nervous.
Well, as I say, for those people that are not have their ear attuned to that particular type of music, it would be a little bit different. I thought this was great. This was almost like a ballet. Look what they were doing with these things. This was really something. I thought. Now, I couldn't do that. I don't know.
Oh,
if I
of course.
practiced for a long time.
Marv, you could do anything you
I don't
set
know
your
if I could do
mind
that.
to do. Sure, you could.
It'd take an awful lot of
I tell you
rehearsal.
what, I'll go buy you one of those things, and you can practice out here on the lawn, and we'll see how good you are. With that, you won't do
Can
that.
I do
though.
that at midnight so nobody can see?
No, you wouldn't be able to catch it.
Well, that's okay. I couldn't see either.
Okay, well, we'll just skip that thought.
All right. Anyway, we did see some other entertainment as we went along, and we'll show you some of that in some of the later episodes as we get into the series here on China. But Betty, again, the one thing I do want to say is that China has really changed, and for people that have never visited there, I talked to a lot of people who say, I don't think I'd really want to go to China. I'll tell you what. China is a big surprise if you have never been there. And we were able on this particular trip to travel from the north to the west of China and also down to the south of China, which was wonderful. This was a fabulous trip. And we also spent time on a boat.
It was excellent. It really was. And Denise Chook goes on with me on a lot of trips, she and her husband. And she called me. She had gone early on because they couldn't go with us. And she says, Betty, wait till you go into China. She says, you won't believe it. She was with us the last time we went there. And the change is absolutely incredible. The buildings that have gone up, the streets that are widened, the modern lighting. Yeah. They probably had modern lightning too.
We always saw that, down in Hong Kong. I mean, when Hong Kong was still a British possession, but now, of course, I think that, and we talked to one of the individuals in Hong Kong and said, well, we think that now the rest of China has been influenced by Hong Kong. And I think we saw that.
I'm sure they have. But there was a tremendous difference in price between Hong Kong and then getting into China itself. There was a big difference.
Well, I think, as we left mainland China and went into Hong Kong, it was like going into another country.
Yes,
I mean, even almost a passport control.
Sure, it was just like going to New York or someplace when you go to Hong Kong, except it's so busy.
Oh,
but, yeah. And everybody just about that we came in contact with spoke English.
Yeah, well, we were very fortunate.
But we could hear a little bit. You could hear it in the background, of course. But
that's true. Anyway, this is part of the opera that we experienced that night in Beijing. And
amen.
If you get a chance to go to Beijing, I'm sure that this is one of the things that you are going to want to see. Now, talking about what you just spoke about a little bit ago, these buildings, now some of these are new and some of them are not. And I said, as we go along on the trip, you can see this is just going down the street in one of the main drags here in Beijing, and you can see what some of the buildings look like. And there are more and more apartment buildings that are going up all the time. As we said earlier, some of the areas that you would probably have considered slum areas or very impoverished areas before have now been taken over, and there are new skyscrapers that are going up almost
isn't
everywhere.
It truly incredible?
It really is, and the other thing too that we notice that there's so much in the way of foreign investment, and also what do you call it when the people go together with one country and another, joint ventures.
Okay.
That's the word I was looking for. There's still a lot of joint ventures going on in China.
A lot of joints too.
A lot of joints. Well, we hit the big joints. And you see the hotels, I think, are some of the most beautiful you've ever seen. Yeah.
I
some of the
remember
old
when we went to Canton that time and we stayed at the White Swan. It was so elegant. But that was like 10 years ago, so we didn't get into it this time.
And even as you said, too, Betty, even as you see along the streets now, there are beautiful flowers and gardens that have been put here. And it's really quite nice.
They're ready for the Olympics.
Well, and you know what? They hadn't even gotten the bid for the Olympics here, so guess how much it's going to change before the Olympics actually arrive.
I don't know what more they could do. Well, I do know, because we saw them working on the streets and putting down new pavement, new what do you call those? The bricks. A lot of the bricks things, yeah.
Yeah. Betty, it's almost time for us to wrap up this particular show, but we have a lot more to show you and a lot more surprising things as we visit China. But we have other trips coming up, too. And if you're interested in those, all you have to do is give Betty a call
at 488-7443.
And the area code is?
559.
That's right. So that's the number. Give Betty a call. See you next time. Bye.
Bye-bye.